Linglong looked down and saw Fang Chen hugging her tightly from behind, his body pressed firmly against her back like a plaster. Fang Chen said with resolute voice by her ear, "Senior, rest assured in battle, this junior will never let go even if I die." Linglong ground her silver teeth, inwardly muttering, "What kind of weirdo is this?" But before she could think further, she heard the stone statue emit a hoarse low roar, its arms suddenly exerting force, stretching the coiling long whip until it creaked. Linglong pulled the long whip taut, a hint of strain faintly appearing on her expression, but she could still barely control the opponent. Thoughts raced in her mind. What is he doing refining flesh and blood into a puppet? What purpose does this serve? As she hesitated, suddenly, from among the 9 pairs of wings on the stone statue's back, a blindingly brilliant holy light burst forth. An aura of law permeated the air along with it. Linglong's expression changed drastically, and she cried out involuntarily, "Not good. The stone statue still retains the spatial laws engraved by it during its lifetime." Before the words finished, the stone statue's body, which was clearly still in the distance, eerily appeared out of thin air above Linglong's head. A pair of massive feet, carrying the might to destroy all things, were already trampling down fiercely upon her. Linglong's face changed drastically. Without time to think, the 8 pairs of snow-white wings on her back suddenly bristled upright, each feather stabbing fiercely into the stone statue's feet like sharp swords. Only a terribly dull boom was heard as an unimaginably heavy force pressed down violently, pressing Linglong's entire body straight toward the ground. Her jade feet fiercely pierced through the gleaming floor, half her body deeply buried among the rubble. The stone statue's weight increased instead of decreasing, continuously crushing downward. Linglong could only rely on her 8 pairs of wings to hold on with difficulty, traces of pain already showing on her face. She gritted her teeth and whispered an instruction, "Kid, go save yourself. I'm afraid I won't be able to look after you from now on." As soon as the words left her mouth, she felt a sudden looseness at her waist and back. It turned out that Fang Chen, without even thinking, directly released her and ran off. In just a moment, the door on the distant wall made a soft creak sound and slowly opened. Obviously, it was Fang Chen opening the door and slipping away. Brat, a nameless rage surged up from the bottom of Linglong's heart. Although this damn fellow's staying would only be a hindrance, he actually just got up and left without even saying, "Take care." She thought bitterly, what a heartless man. If George is with you, how could she have good days? She abruptly looked up at the stone statue, sparks flying in her eyes, and roared, "Could this old lady be killed by a stone statue, left by a dead person today?" As soon as the words fell, the 8 pairs of wings on her back simultaneously erupted with intensely blazing holy light, mighty law power surging forth like a raging tide. Behind her, a brand new pair of wings rapidly coalesced. That was the 9th wing. So, the law power she had been holding back and not releasing could actually forcibly elevate her cultivation temporarily. The cultivation aura of the Nine-Winged Archangel, once released, was like an ancient volcano angrily crashing against the sky, unstoppable. The stone statue's incredibly heavy body was instantly blown away by this overwhelming might with a thunderous blast. Rage churned in Linglong's eyes. With a wave of her jade hand in the air, the long whip once again fell into her palm. Following that, she swung her arm, and the long whip, like an enraged dragon, tore through the air and lashed fiercely onto the stone statue with a shrill howl. This strike contained the ultimate power of a Nine-Winged Archangel, enough to annihilate all enemies in the world. The stone statue, mixed with Nine-Winged Archangel flesh and blood, could no longer withstand it. With a crisp crack sound of bursting, the entire stone statue instantly split apart and exploded into countless fragments. Linglong snorted coldly and retracted the long whip. The 9th wing behind her quickly faded and disappeared, and her own aura plummeted rapidly, with a deep weariness visible to the naked eye appearing in her eyes. It was evident that the price to temporarily obtain peerless strength below a saint was absolutely not light. Linglong's delicate body swayed slightly. After barely steadying herself, she raised her eyes to look at the distant door. She muttered to herself, "The item is already in hand. It's time to leave this place." With that, her wings behind her shook, and her delicate body instantly turned into an afterimage. However, in that very instant, a sudden change occurred. The broken stone fragments on the ground suddenly shot out violently like guided meteorites, fiercely smashing toward Linglong. A shrill groan of pain rang out. Linglong's delicate body was smashed flying sideways, angel blood raining down. Following that, another heavy dull thud sounded as her body crashed fiercely against the holy wall. Before she could react, those stone fragments poured over again like a tide, clinging tightly to her body. In a short while, Linglong's entire body was firmly fixed to the wall, only her head remaining exposed. She struggled with all her might, but it had no effect whatsoever. What made her expression change even more drastically was that she vaguely felt something was desperately burrowing into her body, attempting to merge with it. "You're not dead." Linglong instantly understood something and shouted sternly. Among the messy pile of stones, streaks of 5 colored blood quietly seeped out from everywhere, then quickly coalesced together, transforming into a palm-sized 5 colored blood figure. This blood figure had a seductively beautiful face and an alluringly slender figure, its appearance exactly the same as the stone statues. At this moment, she stood with one hand on her hip, looking Linglong up and down, her eyes revealing an extremely satisfied expression. She laughed coquettishly, waiting for 10,000 years. "I've finally waited for a body that couldn't be more perfect. It was not in vain that I exhausted all resources to leave this puppet body to nourish my remnant soul until today. Finally, I have waited for the chance to seize a body and cultivate a new giggle." Linglong's face darkened and she snapped angrily. "You slut, how dare you plot against me?" The 5 colored blood figure smiled teasingly and said slowly, My, such a temper, don't be hasty. I will treasure your body well and have some fun with that little man from earlier on your behalf. It's been 10,000 years since the fallen heaven realm lord passed away, yet there's still someone proficient in the angelic script of his lineage. Even if he isn't a person of the fallen heaven realm lord, he must have countless connections. Getting on good terms with him will bring infinite benefits. After all, the fallen heaven realm lord was the number 1 saint of the heavenly realm, in existence just one step away from becoming the king of all kings. He? Linglong gritted her teeth and said resolutely, "Stop dreaming. I will never give up my body." The 5 colored blood figure giggled, her tone contemptuous. "If I couldn't even handle this little problem, how would I be worthy of my 10,000-year wait?" As she spoke, the stone fragments pressing against Linglong abruptly contracted inward. Linglong immediately let out a long groan of pain as waves of piercing agony fiercely transmitted through her entire body. It was the flesh and blood of the Nine-Winged Archangel forcibly invading her body, remodeling her physique. After a few breaths, Linglong was alarmed to discover that her lower body had completely lost all sensation. This was precisely the terrifying consequence brought about by bodily alienation. Once her body was completely remodeled, this physical form would no longer belong to her, and her soul would be automatically expelled by the body. In fact, the expulsion process had already begun above her forehead. Linglong's soul was already being squeezed out little by little from a corner. Seeing this, the 5 colored blood figure revealed an excited and ferocious grin. She suddenly lunged forward, grabbing her soul and yanking it outward with force, shouting fiercely, "Come out, you stinking woman. Your body belongs to me." A trace of unconcealable panic finally appeared on Linglong's face, but no matter how desperately she struggled, it was futile. She could only watch helplessly as her soul was rapidly pulled out of her body. Just as she was about to be completely possessed at the critical moment, a crisp and melodious bell sound suddenly resounded through the void. Linglong, whose soul had not yet completely left her physical body, felt a brief numbness in her soul. However, the blood figure, which was completely in a soul form, had her soul tremble violently and instantly freeze on the spot. She screamed, "Intara, who is it?" In response, there was only an extremely sharp, piercing shriek, a soul needle of unparalleled sharpness, fast, accurate, and ruthless, piercing through her soul. The 5 colored blood figure instantly let out an extremely miserable shriek, clutching her head and howling in agony without end. But her reaction was extremely fast. Her form flickered, instantly turning back into strands of blood threads, attempting to burrow back into the rubble. Trying to flee, from the void came a cold snort. Fang Chen's figure, which had been concealed all along, then manifested from the void. In one hand, he held the soul-suppressing pagoda, sacrificing the half-giant soul within to the Hell Soul Bell, while his other hand activated the red face of the Hell Soul Bell. In an instant, chains flew out from the soul bell with a clattering sound, shooting accurately into the crevices of the rubble, hooking out every strand of blood thread attempting to escape. Finally, all the blood threads were forcibly dragged into the Hell Soul Bell, coalescing once more into a 5 colored blood woman. Bound tightly by several chains, this blood person struggled hysterically, shrieking, "Release me! I am a 9-winged great angel! Release me quickly!" Fang Chen merely shot her a cold glance, then silently put away the Hell Soul Bell. This remnant soul could not only serve as an offering for the Hell Soul Bell, but was also the master of this sacred hall. Keeping it for now might prove useful. Having narrowly escaped death, Linglong hurriedly returned her soul to her physical body, her voice trembling with excitement. "Brat, you didn't leave." Fang Chen smiled slightly and said gently, "Senior saved me. How could I abandon you?" A surge of gratitude welled up in Linglong's heart. She had truly not expected that Fang Chen could actually save her life, and the methods he displayed even secretly startled her. An invisibility art that could completely shield against even her perception, a mysterious long needle that could annihilate a sage-level soul in one strike, and that notorious Hell Soul Bell. Now, recalling the harsh words Fang Chen had used to force her to leave the Southern Heaven Realm back then, she suddenly felt that perhaps they were not merely harsh words. If she had been as careless and underestimated the enemy as this colored blood person, she would likely have suffered a great loss as well. Fortunately, Fang Chen was ultimately a good person. For the sake of him saving her, she'd let him speak a few more words with her daughter later. Linglong regained composure and said, "Fellow Taoist Fang, please stand aside and let me shatter this pile of rocks." With the soul of the colored blood person captured, these stones lost the power holding them together and were gradually crumbling. Fang Chen smiled and said gently, "Let me lend you a hand." He stepped up to the rock pile, squatting in front of Linglong's head. His long shadow engulfed Linglong. Linglong suddenly had a bad premonition. Seeing Fang Chen with one hand behind his back, the ominous feeling grew stronger. Her eyes widened warily as she questioned, "Brat, you're not thinking of harming me, are you?" Fang Chen smiled genially and replied, "Miss Linglong jests. This Fang does not take advantage of someone in peril." Linglong remained vigilant, staring intently. "Then what do you have in your hand?" Fang Chen brought his hand from behind his back. In his hand was unmistakably a chain, with a collar attached at the end. Judging by the style, it was clearly meant for tethering a dog. Fang Chen said beamingly, "Miss Linglong, I'm giving you a gift. I hope you'll accept it cheerfully, and not be ungrateful." With that, he directly placed the collar around Linglong's neck. "Stop!" Linglong shouted, a terrifying sonic wave shaking all the formation stones on Fang Chen's body surface until they cracked. His body fell backward, and he plopped onto the ground. As expected of an 8-winged great angel. Even gravely wounded, a mere look or a single word still carried immense destructive power. Fortunately, Fang Chen had taken precautions, shielding himself with formation stones beforehand. Otherwise, being roared at from such close range would have had unimaginable consequences. Fang Chen got up with a dark face and snorted coldly, "You refuse a toast, only to drink a forfeit." He grabbed with his hand, and a black divine wood appeared in his palm. Linglong's face turned green at the sight. "You dare hit me." In response, Fang Chen struck her fiercely with the rod. A muffled bang sounded, the dull impact reverberating out. "What's wrong with you, you stinking woman? You think just because your cultivation is high you can take away my geage?" Feeling the intense pain in her head and the dull ache in her soul, Linglong trembled with rage. "You're finished. You're finished. You'll never get to be with geage in this lifetime. I said so." Bang, bang, bang. Fang Chen grunted, the divine wood in his hand suddenly unleashing a series of afterimages. After a dozen strikes, Linglong was already dazed from the beating. Fang Chen put away the divine wood and said coldly, "For the sake of you having no ill will toward geage, I won't go to 80 strikes today. Just cooperate with me obediently." Having said that, he once again placed the dog collar around Linglong's neck. Having suffered a big loss and not wanting more beatings, Linglong could only let Fang Chen put it on her with a face full of humiliation. With a soft click, the collar locked completely. Before long, the rock pile finally dispersed, revealing Linglong covered in blood. Her body fell stiffly to the ground, and just as she tried to stand up, she discovered with utter shame and fury that her body was uncontrollably crouching on all fours, her tail raised high. In such an extremely disgraceful posture, she lay sprawled miserably before Fang Chen. She screamed frantically, "Ah, what did you do to me?" Fang Chen beamed, "You're an 8-winged great angel. How could I be at ease without controlling you?" Linglong was overwhelmed with shame and fury, shouting sternly, "Fang Chen, release me immediately. Otherwise, you'll never ever get together with geage in the next life." Watching her frantic struggling, Fang Chen stroked his chin. He then took out a summer sleeping mat. Seeing the mat, Linglong's delicate body trembled violently, her full, round bosom shaking with emotion. Her voice changed tone. "Why, you don't do anything rash, I'll kill you." Fang Chen said calmly, "Relax, I just want you to sleep. When you wake up, you'll find yourself already in the void." After all, this woman had saved his life and bore no malice toward geage. Fang Chen couldn't bring himself to kill her. He could only wait until he formed a cooperation with the Asura saint, then banish this woman into the void. By then, it would be absolutely impossible for her to enter the southern heaven realm to trouble him again. As he spoke, he wrapped the mat around her. Linglong struggled fiercely, shrieking, take it off quickly, I don't want to sleep with you." An irresistible weariness overcame her, making her eyelids droop. To be cautious, after draping the mat over her, Fang Chen also tightly tied it with a rope around her body, wrapping her up layer upon layer like a rice dumpling. Linglong mumbled a few slurred words. Finally unable to hold on, her eyes closed and she fell into a deep sleep. "What's the big deal about an 8-winged great angel, still obediently sleeping for me, isn't she?" Fang Chen lightly nudged her with his toe, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. If George knew that he had subdued this woman, she would certainly be extremely surprised, right? Forget it, better not tell her. He didn't know if the two women were actually blood-related. If they were, she might be heartbroken. With this thought, he casually found a sack and stuffed Linglong inside. Scanning the surroundings to ensure nothing was overlooked, he then headed toward the door that had opened in the wall. Opening the door earlier was naturally to lower the vigilance of the unknown enemy, allowing him to silently launch a counterattack. He peered out through the doorway. Only then did he realize that outside was an extremely spacious hall. The hall was surrounded by stone walls with opened doors on them, from which members of the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion were emerging one after another. Fang Chen looked back at the sacred hall he was in and then understood. Everyone had entered a similar sacred hall. It was just that Fang Chen and Linglong had terribly bad luck. They happened to enter the room with the black cat and the remnant soul of the Nine-Winged Great Angel. No, could this really be explained by mere luck? Thinking of the stone stele carved with the primordial ancestral scripture, and then of his own ancestral Tao. Nothing was a coincidence. Spatial teleportation often has relevance. Because he possessed the ancestral Tao, he was teleported into a perilous secret chamber. Linglong, having the body of an 8-winged great angel that fits the requirements for possession, was also teleported there. Seeing that everyone was safe and more or less had some angel race treasures in hand, he couldn't help but smile in relief and stepped through the doorway. George nervously scanned around amidst the crowd. Everyone had arrived, only Fang Chen and her mother hadn't appeared. According to the rule of 2 people per room, could it be that Fang Chen and her mother were teleported to the same room? Her heart grew even more anxious. Mother could kill Fang Chen at any moment. "George?" A gentle voice sounded from behind, and George's heart suddenly raced. She turned her head and saw the familiar face of Fang Chen. "Marshal uncle, are you all right?" George hurriedly looked him over, her eyes filled with indescribable nervousness. Fang Chen said, "I'm fine. By the way, this is for you." He took out the angel longbow and 3 arrows. George breathed a long sigh of relief. When she got a clear look at the longbow, she was shocked and blurted out, "Marshal uncle, is this a quaze? I world artifact." No, it's too precious. I can't accept it." Even Marshal uncle's wives have never received a quaze, a world artifact. What was she in comparison? How could she accept such a precious gift? Fairy Yunsheng walked over upon hearing this, took the silver bow and arrows, and directly stuffed them into George's arms. She said meaningfully, "Don't worry, we'll keep it a secret and won't tell Sister Ruxu." George's heart pounded under her gaze, feeling extremely guilty. She felt that Fairy Yunsheng seemed to have completely seen through her thoughts. Daring not to refuse further, George bit her red lips slightly and bashfully accepted. "Thank you, Marshal uncle. I will treasure it well." By the way, she suddenly remembered, looked around and asked, "Marshal uncle, have you seen my mother?" Fang Chen feigned ignorance and replied, "I haven't seen her. What's wrong?" "She hasn't come out." George showed a surprised expression. That shouldn't be the case. With mother's cultivation, coming to this sacred hall should be as easy as taking something out of a pouch. Could it be that she had already come out and left the sacred hall? "What is that?" Suddenly, Gu Zinner's exclamation of surprise rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of her gaze and saw a milky, white spirit pool in the center of the hall. Inside it were countless snowy, white threads, each tipped with a starlight glow that flickered on and off like a sky full of stars. George raised her eyebrows in delight and said, "Marshal uncle, those are the fate stars of my heavenly realm. They are born from the power of a holy angel. A holy angel must have been here and left behind some power, thus giving birth to these fate stars." Gu Zinner's eyes lit up, and she rubbed her little hands together excitedly. They should be worth quite a bit, right? It had been a long time since she had done her old trade as a merchant. Now that the two realms had been pacified, she should go back to being her reputable merchant self. Zia Keoj nodded repeatedly, her eyes brimming with joy, of course. A fate star can guide you to find the key to unravel a twist of fate. If you encounter misfortune or an unresolvable fate, activating it will cause the star on it to lead you to a solution.
What?
Fang Chen's heart surged with excitement. Could it be that the death fate that bound him and the Six Paths Superior could also be resolved through this? Gu Zinner was even more thrilled, dancing with joy. We're rich, rich. I'm going to become the richest woman in the world. Zia Keoj shook her head slightly and warned, each person can only pick one. Once you have one on you, you can't pick a second. Gu Zinner was greatly disappointed, but quickly puffed out her belly, their chest and snorted, one is fine too. She clenched her little fist and shouted as if cheering herself on, Oh fate, fate, you must guide me to find a way to rewrite this barren misfortune. Hearing this, everyone else was overjoyed as well. This opportunity was far more astonishing than the Angel Clan's treasure they had obtained earlier. Everyone began moving toward the spirit pool. Perhaps sensing the approach of living beings, countless enormous beams of light suddenly burst forth from the ground around the spirit pool. Those light beams shot straight up to the dome, a magnificent and awe-inspiring sight. The beams were extremely close together, like a circular fence tightly guarding the spirit pool in the center. The gaps clearly only allowed extremely slender people to pass through. However, for these cultivators, it wasn't too difficult a problem. Gu Zinner giggled and shouted provocatively, Let's see who gets one first. Hearing that, everyone rushed forward, vying to be the first. The fate stars in the spirit pool were limited in number. Those who entered late might not get any. Gu Zinner and Fang Chen were the first to rush up to the fence. Just as they were about to slip through, the fence suddenly seemed to sense an external threat and rapidly expanded to the left and right. As a result, the gap that could originally easily let a thin person through instantly became even narrower. This still couldn't stop Fang Chen. He silently activated the origin of form, and his entire body steadily shrank. But Gu Zinner was still a step faster. Her already slender body passed through without any hindrance and was the first to reach the spirit pool. Her little hand moved lightning fast, and she plucked a fate star in one swift motion. Her little face was filled with surprise and utter smugness. She turned around and excitedly boasted over and over, Yeah, I'm the winner. But the next moment, her smile completely vanished. She saw that everyone else was stuck between the fence beams, unable to pass. Fairy Yunsheng tried to slip through sideways. Her head and waist could enter, but the swell of her chest pressed against the beams, leaving her stuck and immobile. She brushed her hair behind her ear and looked at Fang Chen bashfully. Fang, my love, I can't get through. Bring me with you. Fang Chen nodded and deftly took out a pouch. Fairy Yunsheng smiled and leapt into it. Ling Shu also spoke up softly, Big brother, I can't get through either. What should I do? With her maidenly figure, her chest was also stuck. Fang Chen replied helplessly and gently, You come in too. Ling Shu gave a sweet smile. Hee, thank you, big brother. With that, she nimbly hopped into the pouch. Venerable True Word was still trying over and over to pass through the fence, but her innate physical conditions simply wouldn't allow it. She could only cast a pleading look at Fang Chen. Fang Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and called out, Come in, all of you who can't make it through, come in. All the women present showed grateful expressions and entered the pouch one after another. Watching this, Gu Zinner no longer had the slightest trace of a winner's smile on her face. She bit her lower lip with her snowy, white teeth, tears glistening in her eyes. She blinked hard, forcing back the tears, and consoled herself. It's okay, I just have to endure it for a bit. Who would have thought that Liang Feiyan's loud, rough voice would come through next? I can't get through either, Brother Fang. I'll have to trouble you. There he was, this Liang Feiyan with the face of an angel and the body of an Asura, unable to squeeze through the fence at all. His head was no problem, but the massive pectoral muscles on his chest gave him no chance to even try to wedge himself in. He sighed helplessly, these ostentatious pecs of mine. On the verge of tears, Gu Zinner could no longer hold back. Tears burst forth instantly. Woo, I'm worse than even a man now. You're all bullying me. Fang Chen gathered everyone into the pouch, brought them through the fence, and arrived before the spirit pool. He first reached out and plucked a fate star for himself. He tried to pick another one, but when his hand grasped, the fate star seemed to turn transparent and passed silently through his palm. Fang Chen couldn't help feeling a little regret. It truly only allows a single pick. He opened the pouch and let everyone out. Immediately, everyone scrambled to pluck the fate stars. These rare treasures that had grown here for who knows how many years were stripped bare in the blink of an eye. Those who got one were naturally elated, while those who didn't looked crestfallen. Big Brother, Ling Shu tugged at Fang Chen's sleeve with a bitter little face. Among the group, her cultivation was the weakest, so she hadn't managed to get one. Fang Chen smiled and stroked her soft, shoulder-length hair, gently asking, "Do you have any unfulfilled wishes? I'll help you realize them." Among all the women, if one asked whom he cherished the most, it was undoubtedly Ling Shu. Ling Shu extended her snow-white little hand and gently held Fang Chen's large hand, saying earnestly, "I want to make a wish. After I leave, I hope Big Brother can be happy every day." Fang Chen was stunned on the spot. So the wish she had been longing to make was simply for him to live a better life. Fang Chen came back to his senses, gently tapped her nose, and smiled, "I will, you take care too. When the day comes that we no longer need to rush about like this, I'll accompany you back to the great grasslands." Ling Shu's eyes brightened slightly, like stars at dawn. She then said, "But by then, Big Brother will surely be a peerless expert, capable of splitting seas with a single finger and sweeping away heaven and earth with a glance. Would you still be willing to chop wood, feed horses, watch the clouds roll by, and listen to the silent words of the stars?" Fang Chen cupped her delicate little face and responded word by word. "Wherever you are, I'm willing to do anything." Ling Shu's face brightened like clouds parting to reveal the moon, blooming into an incomparably radiant smile. She reached out and tightly embraced Fang Chen, pressing her ear against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat, softly murmuring, "I'll wait for you. This time, let neither of us be late." Fang Chen's body stiffened slightly. An ominous foreboding surged faintly in his heart. Promises of frontier pastures, now hollow and void. Once Ling Shu's death had already left that promise unfulfilled. Now the vow was renewed. Yet before Fang Chen's eyes loomed a fatal destiny he could not circumvent. Could it be that the next one to be late would be him? Ling Shu lifted her small face and asked in confusion, "Brother, what's wrong?" Fang Chen immediately revealed a gentle smile, covering up, "It's nothing. I will keep the appointment, definitely." He imperceptibly tightened his grip on the fate star and silently prayed, "Unravel my death fate." A gentle breeze blew, and the long fate star swayed in the wind. The topmost star trembled lightly, emitting a dreamlike luster. It gave no response. Fang Chen's heart slowly sank. The karmic implications of the death fate were too great. The fate star was simply unable to resolve it. This tribulation, ultimately, he would have to brave alone. At the same time, Fairy Cloud Attire, Venerable True Words, Zia Keoj, and the others had all smoothly obtained their fate stars. Their eyes all betrayed deep expectation, until a piercing wail resounded throughout the entire hall. It was Gu Zinner holding high the unchanged fate star, crying out loud, "Even the fate star can't change my fate. Heavens, I can't live anymore." Fang Chen's mouth twitched violently. This really was seeing ghosts. Could it be that Gu Zinner's grip was even more troublesome than his death fate? But what made his mouth twitch even more was that after howling twice, Gu Zinner wiped away her tears and viciously declared, "Forget it, I've given up hope. I'll just focus on my second domain. I want this heaven to have no more big breasts. I want this earth to never hurt my heart again." For a moment, all the women present felt a threat to themselves. Even the 1,000-year great crimson demon venerable looked worried and cursed, "You treacherous master, betraying disciple." Fang Chen rubbed his face forcefully, unable to bear watching any longer. He looked up towards the dome of the hall, where swirling spatial whirlpools churned. It seemed that was undoubtedly the exit. Fang Chen smiled warmly and announced loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, this exploration ends here." The lively crowd of Heaven's Mystery Pavilion instantly fell silent. This was the last time Heaven's Mystery Pavilion would mobilize in full force. Such a grand gathering would be hard to replicate in the future. After leaving this place, many would go their separate ways. Their paths might never cross again. Fang Chen felt deeply moved as well and slowly said, "At different stages in life, we meet different people. Learning to part is a compulsory lesson for us. For those who remain in Heaven's Mystery Pavilion, we must cherish our time together even more. For those who leave, if your heart remembers, you can always return to visit. Heaven's Mystery Pavilion will forever be your home." The crowd's hearts trembled. They had personally witnessed Heaven's Mystery Pavilion grow from a small sect on the continent, with only nascent soul cultivators stationed, step by step, into the foremost sect of the Take in Grand Province. They witnessed the birth of the first divine transformation in the Central Earth, witnessed the rise of the champion Marquis. They witnessed him leading the Central Earth from the brink, defeating the ancient giants and conquering the Southern Heaven realm in an epic saga. They witnessed the birth of a glorious era, witnessed a legend etched in blazing flames. Yet many among them had their own paths they must tread. Fang Chen cupped his hands in farewell. You need not hesitate. If you must move forward, go boldly ahead. May we all reunite as stars to witness the heavens and rid the mountains and rivers. With those words, he led Fairy Cloud Attire and a few others to be the first to rush into the spatial whirlpool, disappearing instantly. The rest, with complex emotions, also dispersed. When Fang Chen reappeared, he was somewhere in the sea of clouds. He looked at Xia Keoj, Ling Shu, Venerable True Words, and Fairy Cloud Attire beside him, his gaze finally resting on Ling Shu and True Words, wanting to ask when they would depart. But the words reached his lips and were forcibly swallowed back. Fang Chen sighed helplessly. Forget it. When you leave, don't let me know. The compulsory lesson of parting. I haven't learned it yet. Ling Shu's eyes glistened with tears, her voice trembling slightly. Brother, I will definitely return to keep the appointment. Wait for me. Venerable True Words' gaze was calm as she said softly, All right, I will leave quietly. Fang Chen nodded and immediately activated the heart of Myriad Earths, first bringing them back to the royal court headquarters. Fairy Cloud Attire gently held Ling Shu and Venerable True Words' hands and said softly, Two younger sisters, come with me. I have prepared some small gifts for you as keepsakes. Liu Ruxu and Liu Qingxian were not present, so Cloud Attire took on the role of elder sister herself, doing her best to take care of everyone Fang Chen cherished. She had long known they intended to leave and had made preparations in advance. Fang Chen's eyes showed relief. Cloud Attire was always the woman who stood behind him, silently taking care of everything. When everyone had left, Xia Keoj looked around, a thick look of hesitation appearing on her pretty face. Fang Chen understood her concerns and said gently, Your sister has probably already left the Southern Heaven realm. If she were still here, she would have shown herself. Xia Keoj was suddenly enlightened. Indeed, if Mother were still here, how could she allow herself to be alone with Martial Uncle? She snapped to attention and urgently said, Martial Uncle, quickly notify the Central Earth Army to prepare defenses. The Northern Heaven Realm is massing troops beyond the border, ready to invade at any moment. At last, she had the chance to deliver this top secret intelligence in person. Unexpectedly, Fang Chen gazed at Keoj with satisfaction and smiled. Your heart is entirely with our Central Earth, isn't it? Such vital intelligence, Keoj had not hesitated to share with the Central Earth side. Xia Keoj stomped her foot in anxiety. Martial Uncle, hurry and notify them. Don't delay. Fang Chen clasped his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. Rest assured, I have long anticipated this and have a countermeasure. When he discovered Linglong was an 8-winged archangel, he realized everything was just as the Northern Snow Shura Empress had said. The outside sages could already enter Central Earth at will. How could the nearest Northern Heaven realm abandon its homeland and sit idly by while Central Earth was occupied? Fortunately, he had already exchanged cooperation intentions with the Asura Saint. Now it only remained to finalize the details with the Northern Snow Shura Empress, and the Asura Saint would reactivate the rules, ejecting all sages outside Central Earth back beyond the boundary. Xia Keoj was stunned, then reproachfully chided, Martial Uncle, why didn't you say so earlier, making me worry so much? You're so bad, Tilda. Who knew how worried she had been all along, and it turned out she was worrying for nothing. Fang Chen patted her slender shoulder and said warmly, Stay by Martial Uncle's side with peace of mind. No one will force you to go back. Once the Asura Saint activates the repulsion, the sages of the Northern Heaven Realm will find it very difficult to enter again. Xia Keoj's originally somewhat reproachful face instantly blossomed like spring flowers. She smiled and nodded repeatedly. All right, Keoj won't leave. Keoj will stay and accompany Martial Uncle. Xia Keoj secretly thought. Liu Ruxu, Yu Mingzhu, Liu Qingxian have all left, and Ling Shu and Venerable True Words are about to depart as well. With so many martial aunts gone, Martial Uncle must be very lonely. In the days to come, she must spend more time with him. Fang Chen was also infected by Xia Keoj's smile and said warmly, Thank you, Keoj. By the way, I still owe you a promise. Just let me know once you've decided. Xia Keoj covered her mouth with a laugh. Martial Uncle still remembers. I thought you'd forgotten, but I haven't decided yet. I'll tell you when I've made up my mind. I warn you, my request won't be simple, so don't regret it then. With that, she happily fluttered her pure white wings, transforming into her angelic form and drifting away. Fang Chen rubbed his nose and muttered helplessly, "Just how difficult a task does this girl want me to do? She still hasn't decided after all this time." As long as this promise remained unfulfilled, Fang Chen always felt like there was a heavy stone pressing on his chest, making him constantly think about it. He sighed lightly and suddenly glimpsed thick smoke rising from the horizon. Fang Chen's figure flickered, teleporting over, and saw a massive crater yawning before him. The pit was filled entirely with the corpses of Southern Celestial Realm experts, now being consumed by raging flames. Even if some slipped through the net under such intense incineration, death was absolutely unavoidable. On the ground not far away, the bodies of Central Plains experts were laid out in orderly rows. A tall, slender silhouette stood mutely before the remains, silent and still. Fang Chen approached and called out softly, "Pavilion Master, please accept my condolences." The Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master stared blankly at the corpses covering the ground, his eyes filled with ineradicable self-reproach. He murmured, "Is the Taking Cemetery well built?" Fang Chen was slightly taken aback. He sensed the dense air of desolation radiating from the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master, and understood exactly what the other meant. The Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master, entrusted by the Grand Libationer, had executed a stratagem of sowing discord. Posing as a merchant, he had sold intelligence on the Central Plains to the ancient giants, and even delivered the spiked club that Fang Chen had seized with great difficulty to The Black Sun Royal Court. This resulted in massive casualties for the Central Plains during the early stages of the Battle of Taking Great State. Every Central Plains warrior who fell under that spiked club carried a portion of the sin he shouldered. Before the Southern Celestial Realm was destroyed, the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master managed to suppress this crushing guilt by clinging to the single-minded resolve to conquer that realm. Now that the war had ended, he could no longer keep it down. Fang Chen advised him softly, "It was built beautifully, and everyone rests there in peace. Pavilion Master, your intention was always for the good of the Central Plains, and you rendered immense service in 2 great wars. The merit recognized by the ancient sage God Tablet granting you entry into sagehood is the best proof. You need blame yourself no more." The Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master tilted his head to gaze at the sky and said bitterly, "I did not kill Boren, but Boren died because of me. Since I became a sage, I have constantly heard the grief and curses of the fallen's kin. I keep wondering, am I truly worthy of this sage seat? At the sage level, one becomes connected to the heavens and earth. Some negative emotions directed at a sage can indeed reach the consciousness of the original self directly. This was also the reason why cultivators at the nascent soul stage in the past were so wary of speaking about sages, never daring to mention them lightly. Because a sage could truly perceive it. Constantly subjected to such emotions, whose mental state could possibly remain unimpaired. Fang Chen sighed silently, no longer knowing how to counsel him. Because if he were the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master, he feared he too would be trapped in the same mire, unable to extricate himself. After pondering for a long while, Fang Chen pressed his palms together and said, "Let me first guide their departed souls to peace." He silently chanted the scripture of suppressing hell and quelling souls. Strands of Sanskrit script flew from his lips, guiding wisps of remnant souls to drift toward the distance. Finally, a tiny feather of merit floated gently down and merged into the little Killin's body. With the soul deliverance complete, Fang Chen turned to the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master and said solemnly, "Pavilion Master, the remains will be transported back to The Central Plains. You need not attend to them any longer. Now, I would like you to go and contact the sages and invite them to the North Snow Asura Empress's tent. I have a matter of great importance to discuss with the Central Plains experts." Hearing that there was still an urgent matter, the Fang Mountain First Rank Pavilion Master forced himself to rally and responded, "They will arrive shortly." With those words, his figure blurred, and he departed quietly. Fang Chen returned to the encampment area. Closing his eyes for a brief instance of perception, he easily locked onto the singular Asura Imperial tent. It was a snow-white brand, new tent, with additional Asura clan arrays set up around it. Doubt arose in Fang Chen's heart. Could it be that she was worried some Central Plains sage might harm her? Fang Chen was a bit puzzled. The relationship between the North Snow Asura Empress and himself was already known to all. Without his consent, surely no one would arbitrarily execute her, right? With this doubt, Fang Chen arrived before the array. Inside the tent, a delicate, elegant fragrance permeated the air, and the interior had been tidied until it was spotless. A plush, springy, creamy, white thick carpet was spread out on the ground. The North Snow Asura Empress sat upon it with her hips pressing a shallow indentation, like a peach blossom petal, which bounced back instantly. Beneath her form, fitting, thin silk dress of cyan blue, her alluring figure swayed gently, accompanied by the subtle rise and fall of her mature bosom. Tian Qin patted the carpet and said with a giggle, "Mother, isn't this carpet wonderful? Your daughter went specially back to the clan to get it." The North Snow Asura Empress had lightly applied makeup. Her features remained breathtakingly beautiful, but the aloof dignity of the past was gone, replaced by a softer, more introspective, womanly grace. Her red lips pressed together slightly, betraying her inner anxiety. She said in a low voice, "Tianqin, will the clansmen think I am shameless? My former husband just perished, and I am already awaiting a new one. Ah, they must surely be disparaging me behind my back." Tianqin gave a light snort and said dismissively, "HMPH, would they dare? Look at the man Mother is going to serve. He is the champion Marquis, the commander of the entire Central Plains army. Just let them try to mutter an extra word." The North Snow Asura Empress's meticulously drawn willow leaf brows furrowed gently. They may not say it aloud, but they will certainly think so in their hearts. Tianqin sat down beside her mother speechlessly, threw her arms around her, and comforted her with absolute certainty. "Mother, put your heart at absolute ease. They don't have time to thank you, let alone gossip about you." "Thank her." The North Snow Asura Empress was stunned upon hearing this and asked in return, "What do you mean by that?" Tianqin then explained the whole story in detail. "I only found out after returning to the clan that 11 emperors from the Hell Realm had already come to our clan, 3 days ago. Oh, their manner was aggressive, clearly aiming to exterminate our Dark Asura clan." "What?" The North Snow Asura Empress shot to her feet in alarm, exclaiming, "What happened next?" Tianqin grinned and continued. "After that, the leading female Asura Emperor, holding the moon mirror, waited a full day. Until the very end, she received no message. Then she said to herself that Fang Chen had most likely changed his mind, and only then withdrew her forces." Hearing this, the North Snow Asura Empress's heart, which had leaped into her throat, finally settled back down into her chest. In an instant, she understood those Asura emperors from the Hell Realm had absolutely been secretly dispatched by Fang Chen, specifically to annihilate the Dark Asura clan. Since Fang Chen could not strike directly, and the Central Plains could hardly deliver such a vicious blow, he simply mobilized the forces of the Hell Realm to do it. Fortunately, at that time, she had decisively reached a cooperation agreement with Fang Chen, which was why Fang Chen never issued that order of massacre. Thinking of this, no hesitation remained in her heart. She sighed lightly. Fang Chen's methods are truly ruthless. Had I not satisfied him, I fear my clan's destruction would truly have been but a snap of the fingers away. Tianqin quickly chimed in. "Exactly. So Mother is sacrificing herself for the survival of the entire clan. The clansmen can only feel grateful. Who would dare gossip half a word?" Upon hearing these words, the last trace of misgiving in the North Snow Asura Empress's heart dissipated completely. In its place arose a heavy sense of regret. She looked deep into Tianqin's eyes, tightly clasping her daughter's hands. Her eyes reddened, filled with self-condemnation. "Mother has let your father down. In the end, I must serve his enemy, and I have wronged you even more, dragging you along to share in this disgrace. I am not a good wife, nor a good mother. I'm sorry." Tianqin, however, gave a dismissive light snort. "Why bring up father, when he didn't even care whether we mother and daughter lived or died? As for me, I don't feel the slightest bit disgraced. A promising young man like Fang Chen is destined to become a pillar that upholds the Central Plains and Southern Celestial Realm. Looking further, he might even become an unparalleled colossus throughout the myriad heavens and 100 realms. When that day comes, walking through the heavens, I can simply invoke his name and stride wherever I please. How exhilarating would that be? What's more, I'm still relying on him to help me break through the great bottleneck to 5 senses, Asura Emperor. So I can't wish for anything more than for Mother to be with him." Her daughter's words eased the North Snow Asura Empress's heart considerably. Since even her daughter had no objections, she truly had no more scruples left. At precisely that moment, the array outside the tent stirred slightly, and Fang Chen's voice came through clearly. "North Snow Empress, it is time we had a talk." The heart that had just settled in the North Snow Asura Empress's chest instantly leaped to her throat again, pounding violently, producing a thumping sound she could hear clearly. Herself, though she had mentally prepared herself thoroughly in the preceding days, when the moment truly arrived, she was still so nervous it defied all description. Seeing this, Tianqin covered her mouth and chuckled mischievously, teasing, "Mom, the survival of our entire clan is now in your hands. You better put on a good show." This blanket, you and Uncle Fang can just roll around on it however you like. Have fun, hee hee. With that, she strode toward the formation array and made as if to activate it. The Northern Snow Asura Empress hastily called out, "Wait, let me catch my breath a little longer." Tiankin, however, just gave a soft smile and directly activated the formation, then sauntered out of the tent. She came face to face with Fang Chen and said with a half-smile, "Starfire Venerable, my mother is ready. I hope you two are mutually satisfied." Under Fang Chen's confused gaze, she let out a peal of silvery, bell-like laughter and strode away. Fang Chen couldn't help but wonder, this child, about to become a hostage, how can she still be so happy? What exactly did the Northern Snow Asura Empress say to convince her? With that doubt in mind, Fang Chen stepped into the tent and immediately saw the graceful figure standing there. Having grown accustomed to her dignified and majestic empress demeanor, Fang Chen couldn't help but be stunned at the sight of her in this soft feminine attire. He had to admit, stripped of her imperial authority, the Northern Snow Empress exuded a fatal allure that was impossible to ignore. Flustered by his intense gaze, the Northern Snow Asura Empress quickly turned her face away, averted her eyes, and softly greeted, "See, come in." Fang Chen snapped back to his senses, glanced at the fur rug on the ground, and nodded slightly. "It seems you've really prepared meticulously." "Good, it shows you value our cooperation." Inwardly, he thought, even the rug for discussing matters was specially prepared. She had indeed put thought into it. At his words, the Northern Snow Asura Empress couldn't help but gently bite her full red lips. She had done far more than just prepare a rug. Over 3 full days, she had bathed multiple times and even specially obtained human women's scented oils from a Central Plains woman. Now her voice as faint as a mosquito's hum, she said shyly, all prepared by Tiankin. She has no objections. You can be completely at ease now." Fang Chen nodded. I can see that." She seemed quite happy. Upon hearing this, the Northern Snow Asura Empress's heart raced wildly once more, her mind instantly thrown into chaos. Now that they had come this far, was it time to get straight to the point? Suppressing the immense shame in her heart, she pressed her red lips together and called out softly, her voice trembling slightly, "My lord, please come sit down." "My lord?" Hearing that term, Fang Chen immediately felt a surge of strangeness among humans that was an extremely intimate form of address. His relationship with the Northern Snow Empress hadn't progressed to that point, had it? Or did the Asura tribe have a similar custom of address? With a hint of doubt, he unceremoniously sat down on the soft, plush rug and casually said, "Let's talk in a while. The sages of the Central Plains probably haven't all been notified yet." The Northern Snow Empress was already in utter turmoil. She just responded flusteredly, Oh, everything. Everything as you say, my lord. Then let me give you a massage first." She gently slipped off her embroidered shoes, revealing a pair of smooth, jade-like feet, and stepped unsteadily across the soft fur rug to stand behind Fang Chen. Then she knelt down gracefully, stretched out her slender, jade hands, and gently placed them on Fang Chen's shoulders, kneading with delicate care. Fang Chen felt another wave of oddity. He couldn't help but turn his head and look at her with utter astonishment. This woman, she was truly acting so strange today. Why was she being so intimate? Already filled with anxiety, the Northern Snow Empress grew even more flustered under his gaze. Her fingers slowly stopped, and she asked timidly, You don't like it?" For a moment, Fang Chen was speechless. "It's not a matter of liking it or not at all." He could only mumble, "No need for such courtesy. Just go about whatever you need to do." The Northern Snow Empress couldn't fathom the meaning behind Fang Chen's words. Did he mean he found massaging too boring? Her alluring red lips tightened slightly, then she slowly lowered her head to look at her waist. There, a delicate pale, yellow silk sash tied in an exquisite butterfly not perfectly accentuated her slender, handspan waist. After a fierce internal struggle, in the end, she reached out with trembling slender fingers, grasped one end of the butterfly bow, and gave it a gentle tug. As the exquisite butterfly bow quietly unraveled, the pale, yellow silk sash soundlessly fell onto the rug. The celadon silk gown that clung to her alluring figure instantly lost its restraint, slipping loose to reveal a patch of creamy white shoulder and her delicately defined collarbon. Then her fingers lightly unfastened the front buttons at her chest. 1, 2, 3. When the third button was undone, the smooth, silky gauze gown slid down her slick skin, pooling at her jade feet in a thin, rippling circle. In an instant, her long, graceful, perfect body was left covered only by a white bustier, half concealing and half revealing the most fair and intimate spring scenery. "My lord," the Northern Snow Empress called out tremulously, and her body slowly reclined backward, sinking deeply into the soft white fur rug. The rug instantly crushed into a graceful human shaped indent before bouncing her back slightly, yet still enveloping half her body. She looked as if she were willingly imprisoned within the rug, ready to be done with as one pleased, ready to be plucked. Hearing the sound, Fang Chen instinctively turned his head. In that instant, his eyes reflected a scene that made his heart stop, then race wildly. It was a face of peerless beauty like uncarved jade, now flushed with sunset hues. Her tightly shut eyes bore long lashes trembling helplessly like cattail fans in the wind. The height bustier rose and fell violently with her rapid, ragged breaths. Fang Chen stared blankly for over 10 breaths before jolting awake, as if scalded by fire. He spun around abruptly and hissed in a low voice, "W, what are you doing?" Hearing his voice, the Northern Snow Empress opened her misty, snow-white eyes, gently bit her red lip and countered, "My lord, are you asking the obvious?" Fang Chen hurriedly urged, "Put your clothes back on quickly. You've misunderstood something, haven't you?" Misunderstood? That word crashed down like a basin of cold water, dousing the Northern Snow Empress's burning heart. She hurriedly sat up, grabbed the gauze gown, and pressed it tightly over her upper body, a flash of unprecedented panic in her eyes. If this was truly a misunderstanding, it would be an utter joke. How could she show her face in this world again? She asked shakily, Wasn't it you who told me to give myself to you and become your woman? PFFD. Fang Chen felt his Kai and blood surge violently. A mouthful of blood nearly spurted from his lungs. So flustered that his voice changed pitch, he cried, When did I ever ask you to offer yourself? The Northern Snow Empress clutched the garment covering her body tightly, growing more uneasy and agitated. With a tearful tone, she retorted, "You clearly said that cooperation between our races requires more than trust. It requires a deeper connection, Isn't that what marriage alliance means?" What the hell? Only then did Fang Chen realize the truth. He hurriedly explained, "I never said anything about a marriage alliance." The Northern Snow Empress was frantic and blurted out, "Then why did you ask me to convince my daughter and consider her feelings? Wasn't it because you were going to be her father?" Fang Chen sprang to his feet, his head spinning. He found it utterly absurd where on earth had this understanding between him and the Northern Snow Empress come from. As it turned out, their thoughts were worlds apart. One was buried 99 floors underground, the other soared 99 floors in the sky. He roughly wiped his face and said irritably, "I meant that your daughter should come to the Central Plains as a hostage, and I wanted you to communicate with her properly so she you wouldn't resist too much." What? The Northern Snow Empress also shot to her feet, the rosy flush on her face receding like an ebbing tide, leaving her face instantly ashen. She pointed at Fang Chen's back, her eyes brimming with misty tears. "You and I. My daughter and the whole clan know that I intended to offer myself to you, but now you tell me it was all a misunderstanding. How can I ever face the world again? Fang Chen raised a hand to his forehead, feeling as if one head had swelled to twice its size. Misfortunes never come singly. Before he could sort out his thoughts, terrifying waves of sage realm pressure suddenly surged in from above the tent. The intermediate sages have arrived. Of all times, they picked this moment. Fang Chen hastily said, "Quickly put your clothes on. Don't let the intermediate sages get the wrong idea." The North Snow Empress's heart lurched. "Why have you also invited people from the Central Plains? She frantically started dressing, but the more she put on, the more wronged she felt. She didn't know how to explain to her daughter, much less how to face her clan members. She had betrayed her former husband, wronged her daughter, and willingly became a terrible wife and mother to serve Fang Chen, only to discover it was all a colossal mistake. And Fang Chen. He could simply dust himself off and be fine, and even gain bragging rights about the Asura Empress throwing herself at him of her own accord. The North Snow Empress stared at Fang Chen's back, her dressing movements gradually slowing, a flash of resolute determination passing through her eyes. Sensing the overwhelming pressure drawing ever closer, a ruthless resolve hardened in her heart. She stripped off the donned sheer long dress, and even removed the last piece of modesty, the breast wrap. She stepped forward slowly, then suddenly threw her arms around Fang Chen from behind, pressing her scorching body flush against him without a sliver of space. Fang Chen jerked in shock, hastily turning his head only to meet the North Snow Empress's resentful eyes. "Ah, what are you doing?" The North Snow Empress said in a trembling voice, "Now that things have come to this, I have no path of retreat. Whether for the safety of my clan or for my own reputation, I have no choice but this desperate measure. Since you refuse me the reality of husband and wife, I shall steal the name of husband and wife, As her words fell, she parted her crimson lips and gently spat out a wisp of black light, which struck the formation arrays around the tent. The isolation formation instantly melted like congealed wax. Fang Chen's expression drastically changed, and he shouted sternly, "Stop, backslash." He desperately tried to pry open the North Snow Empress's hands, but she was an Asura Empress. Though her cultivation was sealed, her physique remained as mighty as a dragon. Fang Chen couldn't even budge a single finger, and instead was pinned heavily onto the fur rug by the North Snow Empress. Amidst their tumbling, the rug swiftly wrapped around them both. Seen from the outside, the rug churned like surging clouds and waves, roiling violently. Right at that moment, the intermediate sages walked in, chatting and laughing. Dongfang Ken, you cheerfully stepped into the tent. Husband, your little darling wife is here till. What happy matter do you want to discuss with me? Backslash. The instant she set foot inside the tent, the smile on her face abruptly froze. Her pair of eyes locked onto the relentlessly churning rug. Lu Zhu, the Lord of Fang Chen First Rank Pavilion, the 9 Nether Demon Venerable, the Ancient Chan Buddha Venerable, and the others entered right behind her, their expressions lit. You eyes frozen on the spot. A suggestive soft sound was heard, as if lips pulling away from ambrosia. The North Snow Empress then poked her head out from the rug, revealing her dazzling snow-white shoulders. Her face, like a spring pond reflecting peach blossoms, was filled with extreme shyness as she said, "I must trouble you all to wait outside for a moment. My beloved and I will be out shortly." Backslash. The Central Plains sages were briefly stunned, then their expressions returned to normal. They gave slight nods and turned to withdraw from the tent. After everyone had completely withdrawn, the rug unfurled once more. The North Snow Empress pinned down Fang Chen's wrists with both hands, fixing him firmly onto the rug. Then she pressed her breasts tightly against his face, rendering him unable to speak. MMPH tilde, Fang Chen couldn't break free, feeling both exasperated and amused in his heart. Truly, the wheel of fortune turns. He had imprisoned the North Snow Empress for over a month, and now today he himself was thoroughly restrained. On the North Snow Empress's jade-like face, the rosy hue grew ever deeper. Everything about her could be feigned, except the shyness on her face. There was not a trace of falsehood in it. Feeling the resistance from the person in her embrace, she found the intense shame unbearable, yet also felt waves of desolation. The mist in her eyes quickly condensed into teardrops that rolled down one after another. She said in a trembling voice, "I was once the Asura Empress of the 9 Hells, the mother pattern for the world, noble and exalted. Since I met you, I have been trapped in captivity, repeatedly shamed. Now my husband is dead, my clan is leaderless, and I have endured humiliation, offered myself in service, only to beg you to show mercy and protect my people." Backslash. How laughable, I brought this shame upon myself, reduced to a laughingstock. Unable to gain your favor, I instead sullied my own purity just to grasp after a hollow name. How did I fall to this state? Backslash. Fang Chen gradually stopped struggling. The North Snow Empress released Fang Chen's hands, slowly sat up, and buried her head deep between her knees, weeping silently. Though there was no sobbing sound, that heavy sorrow saturated the entire tent. Fang Chen picked up the long dress from the ground and gently draped it over her back, a complicated expression in his eyes. The North Snow Empress hugged her knees tighter and asked in a low voice, "You rejected me. Is it because of my age?" Backslash. Fang Chen shook his head. "Among my confidantes, there is one of similar age to you." Backslash. The North Snow Empress asked again, "Am I not beautiful enough?" Backslash. Fang Chen sighed. "Your Majesty is reputed to be the foremost beauty of the Southern Heaven Realm, and the title fits the reality." Backslash. The North Snow Empress raised her head, a trace of unwillingness flickering in her tearful eyes. "Then why won't you have me?" Backslash. Fang Chen looked her squarely in the eye and said seriously, "Because I do not wish to owe anyone a debt." Backslash. Any woman who joins with me must be one with whom mutual affection has blossomed and feelings run deep. Backslash. But between you and me, profit far outweighs emotion. Backslash. If I were to give in to momentary desire and claim your body, what could I use to make amends later? Backslash. 1,000 pieces of gold are easily repaid, but the word love is hard to compensate. Backslash. Unless one day you like me and I am also drawn to you, I cannot bring myself to forcibly possess you. Backslash. The North Snow Empress listened quietly, the tears in her eyes unconsciously ceasing to flow. After a while, she spoke faintly. "In the affairs between men and women, that you can adhere to the way of a gentleman is praiseworthy." Backslash. But I always feel that one day you will regret it. Backslash. Fang Chen's gaze sharpened slightly. "Are you referring to us?" Backslash. The North Snow Empress wiped away her tears and shook her head. "No." Backslash. You have many shining qualities that touch people's hearts. I believe many people must like you. Backslash. Are all of them in perfect harmony with your feelings? Not necessarily, I think, / In this world, where is there so much mutual affection? One person loves while the other does not. That is the normal state of the world. / You, being loved yet unmoved, would watch helplessly as the other clings to regret, her beautiful face turning to dry bones, fresh flowers withering into dust. When that time comes, will you truly feel no heartache, no regret? / Fang Chen's expression turned blank, and he slowly shut his eyes. In his mind, a tall, cool figure surfaced involuntarily. That one who loved, but could not have chosen to seal it with a kiss and retreat to the depths of the vast sea, never to meet again in this life. Fang Chen shook his head and murmured, "No, it won't happen. / Her face will not fade, she will never grow old. Time will naturally carry away her regrets. / The North Snow Empress fixed him with a deep gaze. Is that so? / Then I shall await the day you regret it. / With that, she snatched the sheer long dress and actually began to put it on right in front of Fang Chen. Watching that snow-white body exposed without any cover before his eyes, Fang Chen's old face flushed slightly, and he hurriedly turned away. The North Snow Empress snorted lightly. Given the chance, yet utterly useless. What an impotent venerable you are. Grok, impotent, in Chinese has a double meaning of incompetent and sexually impotent. So I choose incompetent, but keep the other meaning. Gee, actually, impotent. Fang Chen laughed in extreme anger, thinking, well, you even dare to put me down. I'd gladly pin her down and teach her a harsh lesson. He said with a dark expression, hurry up and get dressed. For the peace between our two races, from this day forward, you may move about the southern heaven realm as my concubine, but you absolutely must not seek personal gain. Otherwise, / The North Snow Empress thrust her perky, full breasts forward high and snorted provocatively, otherwise what? Kill me, / Fang Chen clenched his teeth tightly, squeezing out the word you, but found that he truly couldn't do anything to her. Unless he gave up the southern heaven realm. Fang Chen said with a gloomy face, so our cooperation can be considered settled, right? / The North Snow Empress adjusted her dress, closed her eyes, and looked up toward the heavens, pointing a finger at the center of her brow. After a moment, an obscure fluctuation, silently and slowly, swept over Fang Chen's body. Fang Chen felt an inexplicable palpitation, every hair on his body standing on end. It was the will of the Asura Saint. The North Snow Empress opened her eyes and said calmly, "The Asura Saint has already activated a repulsion prohibition. Any sage who trespasses into the southern heaven realm will be flung away. / You Central Plains must arrange for sages to be stationed. As soon as you sense any stealthy entry, you only need to stop them in advance. / Fang Chen nodded. If spirit-severing cultivators sneak across, carrying sages within pocket dimensions or similar life spaces, they can circumvent the world barrier rules. Therefore, it is necessary to have sages stationed in the southern heaven realm to promptly eliminate hidden dangers. Of course, if there were a way to fortify the world's barriers so that only beings of the Three Calamities realm could breach them, it would be even safer. Seeing the Northern Snow Empress straighten her attire, Fang Chen wiped his face and called out loudly to the outside, "Everyone, come in." Inside the tent, a fierce wind howled as the sages of the Central Plains arrived one after another, their bodies flashing like lightning as they teleported in. They pretended not to care about the relationship between the two, chatting and laughing merrily among themselves. The Northern Snow Empress calmly sat down beside Fang Chen, pressing close to him, openly declaring their relationship. Feeling utterly embarrassed, Fang Chen braced himself and said, "As you all can see, the Northern Snow Empress is now my woman. Our Central Plains and the Dark Asura tribe have forged a 100-year friendship." After speaking, he covered his face, waiting for astonished gazes to fall upon him. Contrary to expectations, everyone's expressions remained normal. Fang Chen asked in bewilderment, "You aren't surprised at all?" The Nine Nether Demon Venerable sized Fang Chen up and down, a contemplative look on his face. "Of course we are surprised. That you only just made her yours, that truly exceeded my expectations. This is unlike the you I know." Fang Chen's eyes widened. What does the Demon Venerable mean by that? The Nine Nether Demon Venerable said calmly, "Given your style of taking in every beauty, the Northern Snow Empress was imprisoned by you for a month, yet she still retains her purpose. IT, Spockfire Venerable, you make me feel like a stranger." Fang Chen's eyes went wide as he looked at the other sages. But he saw that they, too, were looking at him with unfamiliar gazes. Fang Chen clenched his fists. "Sometimes I really feel like reporting this to the authorities. Is there no one who can reign in this slanderous culture in the martial world?" The Northern Snow Empress curled the corner of her lips, feeling smug. She sneered inwardly. Serves him right to be embarrassed. Who told him to choose worse than a beast between being a beast and worse than a beast? She cleared her throat and explained the deal that Fang Chen had struck with the Asura saint. Hearing this, all the sages of the Central Plains were overjoyed. The heavenly artisan sage burst into laughter. Send word immediately. Stop the destructive plundering of the Southern Heaven Realm's resources. From now on, the Southern Heaven Realm is territory of the Central Plains, and we can come anytime. The traceless sage of the medicine god hole was so excited his aged body trembled. This is the first time since the ancient sage opened up the Central Plains that we have expanded our territory. The Thunder Annihilation Sage howled with excitement. Ha ha ha, Sparkfear Venerable, you have established another brilliant heavenly merit for our Central Plains. This union. Your marriage is destined to be recorded in history. Fang Chen was speechless and stopped dwelling on this awkward matter. He said solemnly, since all you seniors now know of the changes in the Southern Heaven Realm, please discuss among yourselves how to arrange patrols. This junior plans to return to the Central Plains, first to settle some unresolved matters. He raised his gaze to look at the Cold Moon Sage. He had promised the Cold Moon Sage to take over the Moon Palace. Now was the time to fulfill that promise. After this matter is settled, it will be about time to go to the 10 realms of the heavens to suppress and expel the ancient dark beings. The ancient Zen Buddha Venerable pressed his palms together and said, Excellent. The Second Merits Assembly will be held soon in the Tai Kang Great State. After making arrangements for those who stay behind, we too will return to the Central Plains. Fang Chen's eyes shone with anticipation. Would the Merits Assembly begin tomorrow? Last time it granted him an immense amount of merit. Converted into merit divine pearls, it had been enough to break through to the Sage Realm once. In this great battle, he had rendered even greater achievements. He wondered how much merit would be bestowed this time. As for the others, Golden Scale, Great Venerable, Ice Heart, Great Venerable, Compassion Mirror, Great Venerable, and so on, who might be able to achieve sagehood through merit. He couldn't guarantee for others, but if Compassion Mirror Great Venerable's merits fell short, he could give his own merit divine pearls to his godmother to help her become a sage. Fang Chen nodded. Since you seniors have your plans, this junior won't worry further. I will return to the Central Plains now. He rose to leave, but the Cold Moon Sage called out to him with a smile. No hurry. The Cold Moon Sage produced a jade bottle, within which was a crimson great pill. The pill's spiritual nature was extremely potent. Like a trapped little white rabbit, it bounced ceaselessly inside the jade bottle. Delight bloomed on Fang Chen's face. He snatched it and asked, Could this be the Dragon Abyss pill that I entrusted to you before the great battle? In the herb garden of the unworthy sage Cloud Crane, there was an extremely precious dragon abyss fruit. Consuming it could give one a chance to confront the 4 declines of the heavenly man. If refined into a 7th grade great pill, a breakthrough would be guaranteed. The Cold Moon Sage stroked his beard and said, I have ultimately failed your trust. I was unable to refine it before the battle. This old man only succeeded yesterday. If Fang Chen had possessed the cultivation of the 4 declines of the heavenly man during the great battle, that fight would have been much easier. Fang Chen hurriedly said, Senior Cold Moon, you are too serious. You tirelessly refined spirit pills for all the divine transformation cultivators in the Central Plains. How could I dare to blame you? I will now use the heavenly realm's spiritual energy to make a breakthrough to the 4 declines of the heavenly man. Seniors, please do as you please. With a thought, he teleported away from the tent. When he reappeared, he had arrived at the Purple Azure Immortal Mountain. To his slight surprise, someone was already cultivating here. It was Zia Keoj. Zia Keoj sensed someone's arrival. Opening her eyes, her expression immediately lit up with delight. Uncle, Master, what are you doing here? Fang Chen smiled faintly. Uncle, Master came to cultivate as well. What are you cultivating? He noticed a golden, yellow scripture spread open on Zia Keoj's lap, radiating an intensely rich spatial aura. His heart trembled slightly. Could this be the legacy of that archangel who mastered the laws of space? Speaking of which, he and Linglong had suppressed its remnant soul and taken all its treasures and saint blood, but the legacy was nowhere to be seen. Zia Keoj picked up the scripture and handed it to Fang Chen, saying, I got this in the sacred hall. It's an angelic cultivation method of unknown grade. But I'm a little slow. I've been trying to comprehend it for a while, but still don't understand. Fang Chen sat cross-legged beside her with a smile. Is that so? Then Uncle, Master will help you comprehend it. Feeling Fang Chen's presence so close, Zia Keoj's heart beat a little faster. She hurriedly handed the scripture to him with both hands, then felt so flustered she didn't know what to do with herself. It was only when Fang Chen held the scripture and his mind sank completely into it that Xia Keoj dared to steal a glance at him. Gazing at his focused expression, Xia Keoj fell into a daze, murmuring in her heart, "In name, he is my uncle, master, but this is the first time he's actually instructing me in martial arts. If only it could always be like this." 2 hours later, Fang Chen let out a long breath and closed the scripture, a trace of surprise on his face. "Keoj, this is the heritage of the Nine-Winged Archangel. Cultivating it to the end will make you an archangel who controls the laws of space. Would you be willing to try walking this path?" Xia Keoj's eyes shone like stars, and she nodded repeatedly. "A heritage that uncle, master personally helped me comprehend. Whatever it is, I'm willing to cultivate it. Quickly transmit it to me." Fang Chen smiled, inwardly marveling how Keoj could always make him forget his troubles. From between his brows, he extracted a point of fluorescent light and said, "This contains some of uncle, master's insights. It's enough for you to comprehend the first layer." Keoj obediently leaned her head in, allowing Fang Chen to press his finger onto the center of her brow. It was the most ordinary act of thought transmission, but unexpectedly, a sudden change occurred. The fluorescent light in Fang Chen's hand, as it touched Xia Keoj's brow, was abruptly repelled. Xia Keoj's hidden snow-white wings activated on their own and abruptly unfurled. Unlike their usual snowy white, her wings now had many golden feathers among them. These were not the life-saving golden feathers of the past, but feathers that contained a trace of saint blood. The beautiful female angel Xiao Ru, to repay Fang Chen, had once given him her only golden feather. Golden feathers signify the presence of a saint's bloodline. However, Xiao Ru's saint bloodline had become so faint as to be negligible. But Xia Keoj's golden feathers appeared in clusters. A full 10th of them were golden. Since the saints vanished 10,000 years ago, the bloodlines of their descendants have grown thinner with each generation. Among the current generation, even inheriting 1% of the bloodline is considered extremely good. Yet Keoj actually possesses a full 10th of the bloodline. After a moment, the bright golden feathers dimmed, returning to their normal white, and the wings slowly vanished. Xia Keoj made a bitter face. "Uncle, master, it seems I cannot cultivate other heritages." Fang Chen recovered from his astonishment and said, "With such a powerful saint bloodline, it would be strange if you could cultivate other heritages. What awaits Xia Keoj is the saint heritage from your ancestors. How could the Nine-Winged Archangel's heritage not be rejected by your bloodline?" Xia Keoj looked pitifully at the scripture. "Uncle, master finally taught me something, but I can't cultivate it. A saint bloodline, it's really annoying." A hint of realization dawned in Xia Keoj's eyes as she murmured lowly, "I've never understood why the Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Archangel treated me especially well." So that was it. My body holds such a dense saint bloodline. Back before she came to the Middle Continent, the Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Great Angel had personally bestowed upon her a jade pendant storage artifact. This artifact was forged from precious fragments of the exquisite jade tree, and in the entire world there exist only a mere 9 of them. That the Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Great Angel would bestow one upon her, such favor already far transcended the phrase being highly valued. Upon hearing this, Fang Chen's brows slightly furrowed. In order to purge dissidents, he did not scruple to sacrifice his own clansmen. This Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Great Angel left him with a truly poor impression. Could his exceptional favor toward Jeoj be driven by ulterior motives? Fortunately, Jeoj did not need to return to the northern celestial realm, so such worries were unnecessary. Xia Jeoj propped her exquisite chin on her hands and said coquettishly, "Then Jeoj won't cultivate today. I'll just watch you cultivate, uncle, master." Fang Chen's gaze softened, and with a warm smile he said, "Good, then you can stand guard for your uncle, master, while he cultivates." Just as he was about to sit cross-legged and regulate his breathing, a black streak of light suddenly plunged down at a terrifying speed. At the same time, from the direction of the base camp, several auras of sages burst forth without warning, charging directly toward this location. Fang Chen's heart lurched violently, and he immediately scanned his surroundings with heightened alertness. He heard a sharp cracking sound. It was the ominous sound of the world barrier rupturing, shockingly coming from directly above his head with terrifying momentum. Fang Chen jerked his head up and saw that the sky had been brutally torn open, forming an unimaginably long and massive rift. Through that ferocious rift, one could clearly see into the void an endless number of dazzling stars radiating brilliant light, their count far exceeding 10,000. However, those were no stars at all. Each and every one of them was shockingly an angel. Fang Chen's heart clenched in shock. Could it be an invasion from the northern celestial realm?
No.
The Shura Saint had clearly already restored the world barrier's laws, so they had long since lost the optimal invasion window. Moreover, why would they appear so precisely right above his own head? Could they be aiming for that 8-winged great angel, Linglong? But when Fang Chen's gaze suddenly fell upon Xia Zheoj beside him, his divine soul involuntarily trembled violently.
No.
They are here for Zheoj. It must have been that Zheoj's sacred angel bloodline was just now awakened, triggering a resonance that allowed the enemy to precisely lock onto their location. Without a word, Fang Chen grabbed Xia Zheoj's slender waist with one arm, while his other hand moved to retrieve the heart of myriad Earths. However, before he could react, one of the stars suddenly erupted with a holy radiance so blindingly brilliant that it outshone all else. That light was so intense that it instantly overwhelmed all the other angels, causing them to dim and vanish completely into its glare, leaving not a single trace to be found. At the same time, an immeasurably terrifying pressure pierced through the world barrier with overwhelming force. The land around the purple, green immortal mountain collapsed with a thunderous roar, and the sky shattered inch by inch. Even the purple, green immortal mountain, which served as the womb of the realm, hummed and shuddered under that pressure. It was as if the entire southern celestial realm could no longer bear this terrifying weight. Such a horrifying sight Fang Chen had only witnessed before when the Sun Giant Emperor descended upon the middle continent. Thus, the identity of the newcomer was already at the tip of his tongue. It was undoubtedly one of the 2 9-winged great angels of the northern celestial realm.
Crash it.
A dull, thunderous boom rang out as a tangible chain of law shot through from the void rift, and wherever it passed, all order collapsed. The clear sky suddenly began to shower goose, feather, like snowflakes. The crystal, clear lake of spiritual liquid instantly turned murky and churned. Yet the flowers and grass by the lakeside, which had long withered, suddenly revived with vibrant life in an instant. All order was utterly disrupted. Even the heart of myriad Earths that Fang Chen had already activated was abruptly interrupted on the spot due to the world's loss of order. It happened in the blink of an eye. With a low shout, Fang Chen decisively crushed a spatial storage artifact in his hand. With a sharp crack, the storage artifact instantly exploded into dust, and the items within should have been destroyed along with the spatial pocket. However, a bronze great hall radiating an air of immortality came crashing down instead. That was shockingly the former palace of the underworld's Yellow Springs realm lord, within which her indestructible saintly body was sealed. As soon as the bronze great hall appeared, the shattered order around them swiftly restored itself. That law chain seemed to suddenly sink into a quagmire, though it was right before their eyes, its movement abruptly slowed by tenfold. A sharp light flashed in Fang Chen's eyes as he once more fiercely activated the heart of myriad Earths. With a whoosh, he grabbed Xia Zheoj and instantly vanished from the spot. And from the void at that moment came a distant, cold snort filled with supreme majesty. That sound arrived near them, and the many sages and the big black dog, who had just rushed over, felt as if thunder had exploded in their ears, their Tao bodies trembling violently in unison. The big black dog reacted the fastest. A golden light suddenly surged from the third golden dog's eye on its forehead, washing over its entire body and utterly destroying the terrifying residual might within it. The sages from the middle continent reacted slightly slower and were immediately shaken until blood flowed from their 7 orifices, their eyes filled with horror. The big black dog shook its aching body and immediately cursed, "Eastern Emperor, you old bastard, are you blind? Can't you see the dog lord is here?" In the void, within that intensely blazing sun, a pair of eyes as majestic as the heavens coldly gazed over. Even through the world barrier, that gaze still made one's heart turn cold. Such terrible pressure. The face of the pavilion master of the first rank pavilion of Fang Mountain was completely bloodless, his eyes filled with palpitations. The pressure brought by the Eastern Emperor 9-winged great angel far surpassed that of the Sun Giant Emperor and the Hell's Shura Emperor. Even if the latter two had been uninjured, they likely still could not compare to this Eastern Emperor 9-winged great angel. The Eastern Emperor 9-winged great angel cast an indifferent glance over the land and then vanished into the void. The pavilion master's face drastically changed, and he cried out, "Not good, he's gone after Fang Chen." Lu Zhu's heart tightened. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the big black dog rolling its eyes and sneaking behind the crowd, so she instantly flashed over and grabbed its dog ear. Lu Zhu said angrily, "Dead dog, Your master is in trouble, and you still want to hide." The big black dog bared its sharp teeth and said, "Dead girl, who the hell are you? How dare you meddle in my business?" Lu Zhu raised her small hand and slapped it right on the dog's head, scolding coquettishly, "I'm Fang Chen's favorite wife. Dare to bite your master and see what happens. If keeping you won't make you loyal, I can certainly stew you to death." The big black dog's mouth twitched and it hurriedly fawned. "So it's the lady of the house. My apologies, my apologies." Lu Zhu huffed, "Find Fang Chen for me immediately." The other sages also immediately surrounded them, tightly trapping the big black dog. Seeing no chance of escape, the big black dog could only take a deep sniff with its dog nose, reluctantly beginning to track Fang Chen's scent. He's near the Black Sun Royal Court. Wait, he's gone. He went to the Blood Moon Royal Court. Wait, he's gone again. The sages' faces changed again and again. They instantly understood that Fang Chen was continuously teleporting to avoid being locked onto a cross realms by the Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Great Angel. Lu Zhu was extremely anxious and shouted, "Let's split up and search." The sages dared not delay and immediately scattered in all directions, agreeing that whoever encountered him first would protect Fang Chen. Near one of the royal courts, two clay figures quietly rose from beneath the earth and then transformed into the appearances of Fang Chen and Zia Zheoj. Fang Chen tightened his grip on the heart of Myriad Earths and once again sent out a mental command. A full 3 breaths later, the two of them vanished from the spot again. And not long after, a terrifying aura tore open a void rift, and a pair of eyes as cold as the sun and moon flashed for an instant within that rift before disappearing. At the same time, in an area between 2 royal courts within a hidden valley, figures of Fang Chen and Zia Zheoj reappeared once more. Holding the heart of Myriad Earths, Fang Chen's expression involuntarily turned somewhat solemn. Zia Zheoj was also heavy-hearted. Being exceptionally clever, she too saw that the situation was not good. The heart of Myriad Earths had been used too frequently in too short a time. Its internal energy could not be replenished, and after the 10th activation, it started to have cooled WNS, each one longer than the last. Moreover, the distance it could teleport was also rapidly shrinking. The Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Great Angel could continuously lock onto her location by relying on the scent of the sacred blood within her. If this continued, it was only a matter of time before he caught up to them. He had survived that last strike only by relying on the deterrence of that mysterious bronze great hall. If they were caught again, there would be absolutely no chance for Fang Chen to live. "Uncle, master, put me down." Zia Zheoj pressed her moist, red lips together, her eyes brimming with a watery mist. In the end, this agonizing parting was truly inescapable. Fang Chen's heart sank like water. How could he bear to abandon Zheoj? But how exactly could they evade the pursuit of a 9-winged archangel? The heart of 10,000 Earths could hold out for only a little longer. Thoughts flashed like lightning. Countless schemes raced through his mind, yet none were of any use. Those 6 words, invincible beneath the saint, were enough to crush every possible tactic.
Crack.
The sound of the world barrier rupturing thundered forth. After a mere 4 breaths' pause, the Donghuang 9-Winged Archangel had caught up again. Fang Chen's hair stood on end instantly. Without hesitation, he activated the heart of 10,000 Earths. But where should they go? Suddenly, a place flashed into Fang Chen's mind. The white-robed skeletons, Thunder God, Celestial Palace. If there was anything left in this world that a 9-Winged Archangel feared, it was, without a doubt, that enigmatic white-robed skeleton. Now all he needed was to reach the sky-connecting black pillar, and they could escape back to the central plains. With a destination decided, Fang Chen teleported away without a moment's delay. Boom! The very instant they vanished, that law chain tore through the world barrier and descended with apocalyptic force. The ancient earth was blasted apart, revealing the iridescent world barrier beneath. In the distance, 2 mud figures emerged in utter disarray. Fang Chen spat out a mouthful of blood with a pus sound, his face as pale as paper, his body nearly torn into 4 pieces, barely held together by the adhesive force of the moonleaf. GHT, or he would have exploded on the spot. Though he had moved in time, the aftershock of that shattered order still struck him hard. "Uncle, master." Zia Zheoj let out a shrill scream and frantically steadied Fang Chen's swaying frame. 2 scalding trails of tears burst from her eyes instantly. Sobbing, she cried out, "Leave me behind. I don't want to drag you down, uncle, master." As long as her uncle, master, was safe, what became of her no longer mattered. Fang Chen ground his teeth, enduring the soul rending agony, and struggled to speak through clenched jaws. "Uncle, Master is fine. We will make it back to the Central Plains, I swear." Before his words faded, a flash of fierce resolve glinted in his eyes, and he snatched out the time, space hourglass. Under the mad torrent of tenfold time acceleration, Fang Chen violently triggered the heart of 10,000 Earths once more. Streams of light blazed away 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, 4 breaths. The heart of 10,000 Earths, which should have required at least 6 breaths to activate, was preemptively detonated at this very moment. With a sharp whoosh, space twisted, and the 2 figures vanished from the spot without a trace. A full breath after their disappearance, that void was violently rent apart by a chill force, revealing the icy, utterly indifferent eyes of the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel. Deep within the churning sea of clouds, a solitary island floated in suspension. The soil roiled like waves, and Fang Chen and Zia Zheaj tumbled out in a wretched heap. Fang Chen glanced at the titanic black pillar piercing the sky not far away, wiped the bloody foam from his lips with a rough swipe, and a cold gleam rose in his eyes. "Think you can chase me down?" When it came to movement arts, the angel race was unsurpassed. Once donning the void feather garment, Fang Chen could teleport through nothingness at extreme speeds, nearly rivaling a sage of the 3 calamities realm. As a 9-winged archangel, Donghuang was even faster, tracking his trajectory to the heart of 10,000 Earths was hardly surprising. But in the end, Fang Chen was still a step ahead. He pulled Zia Zheaj tightly, teleported without hesitation to the vicinity of the sky-connecting black pillar, and then, without a second thought, plunged directly into the passage, leading to the pillar. At that same moment, a heaven-shaking roar of the world barrier fracturing tore through the sky above them, and a colossal, black rift ripped open. The Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel's eyes, utterly frigid to the extreme, stared down upon them with chilling detachment. Just that one glance across worlds made Fang Chen feel as though his entire body was being scraped by steel blades, an unbearable, raw pain. Thankfully, this distance was enough for him to flee into the sky, connecting black pillar. Once he was inside, not even the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel could do a thing to him. But at that trigger moment, the single word freeze, cold and utterly devoid of emotion, emerged from the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel's mouth. In his hand, he held an intact branch, which he pointed remotely through the distant void, directly at Fang Chen. The instant the word freeze reached his ears, a sharp sense of peril exploded in Fang Chen's heart. A thought flashed through his mind: freeze immortal jade branch, the angel relic Wang Chengxi, had found in the ruins of the southern celestial realm. If that was in the southern celestial realm, how could the northern celestial realm not have one? In that split second, Fang Chen felt his entire body lock up, as if frozen in amber, utterly unable to move. The time around him seemed to fall into absolute stillness and dead stagnation.
Crack.
A law chain imbued with destructive order tore through the world once more, rolling over with thunderous momentum. Almost without any time gap, the chain came whistling directly before Fang Chen. But just as it was about to strike him, Fang Chen's eyeball moved with eerie strangeness. A small jade bottle containing the tainted blood of a Dao slave, prepared well in advance, materialized out of nowhere above his head. Under the law chain's wildly destructive force, the jade bottle shattered instantly, and its sticky contents, Dao slave's tainted blood, splashed out, drenching the chain. A ghastly sound of corrosion seared the air as the law chain's surface erupted with vast black rust and began to rot away at terrifying speed.
Arg.
A muffled groan of agony echoed from the depths of the void, and the law chain recoiled like a shocked serpent, large fragments raining down like a black deluge. Meanwhile, deep within his sleeve, Fang Chen was secretly clutching the time, space hourglass already in a triggered state. It turned out that the moment he sensed something amiss, he had decisively activated it. Under the protection of the time accelerating law, he narrowly avoided being completely frozen, and even dealt a vicious blow to the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel. For his own cultivated law to be defiled like this, such an injury was far more severe than Fang Chen's shattered body. Even across worlds, he could clearly feel the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel's murderous intent erupting wildly. Take your time searching. Fang Chen had no intention of giving his opponent any chance to react. He grabbed Zia Zheaj, leaped, and threw himself into the sky-connecting black pillar.
No.
The Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel roared in fury, abruptly raising a finger and pointing it at the entrance from afar. Great sorrow, celestial slaves. In an instant, countless tiny angels of pure white, wailing with soul, scattering sobs, poured into the sky-connecting black pillar like a torrential rainstorm. Their chilling cries could shatter even a sage soul. If even one caught Fang Chen, his death was certain. And now, over 1,000, such snow-white angels flooded the pillar, their speed accelerating until they turned ghostly and translucent. This was a speed rivaling that of a sage. Trapped inside that narrow passage of the sky, connecting black pillar, Fang Chen and Ziyajayoj had no room to evade. Fang Chen was doomed. However, at this moment of life or death crisis, a figure, transitioning from illusion to reality, silently appeared before the sky-connecting black pillar. He first cast a cold glance at the Donghuang Nine-Winged Archangel beyond the rift, then turned his gaze inside the pillar where Fang Chen and Ziyajayoj had long since vanished. Then, without delay, he activated his law. Countless faint, flickering fragments of law chains emerged, silently orbiting around him. A soft command escaped his lips. All things may be exchanged. In that instant, the little snow-white angels that had already surged into the pillar bizarrely reappeared above his head and plummeted down upon him in a frenzied cascade. He had transferred the attack meant for another entirely onto himself. In all the Central Plains world, only one person could wield such a law. The first-ranked pavilion master of Fang Chen. He slowly lowered his gaze toward the sky-connecting black pillar, a gratified smile curling at the corner of his lips, and murmured to himself, "Good luck, kid. I am free."
Thud, thud, thud.
Amidst the angel onslaught dense as a blizzard of snowflakes, his form was instantly, utterly consumed. As the little angels dissipated into ethereal shadows, only fragmented soul motes remained on the spot, like fallen butterflies, gradually turning transparent and finally vanishing entirely. The Central Land. Fang Chen repeatedly used the heart of myriad Earths to gallop, flying at his fastest speed out of the astral wind region and appearing beneath the sky canopy above the Heaven's Mystery Pavilion.
Splash!
Suddenly, a chilly spiritual rain descended from the sky without warning. A look of relief after surviving a calamity had just emerged on Fang Chen's face, but now he couldn't help but freeze abruptly. He extended his hand to catch the spiritual rain, and his pupils suddenly contracted. A sage has fallen. Who? Why did they fall? But there was no time to think carefully. This place was not safe. Since the enemy could break through the southern celestial realm, they could also break through the central land. Fang Chen suppressed the grief in his heart, grabbed Ziyajayoj, and activated the heart of myriad Earths one last time. With a swift asterisk swoosh asterisk, when the two reappeared, they were already in the mountains of the myriad calamity sacred hall. That thunder god's palace, shaped like a stone spire, was now right before their eyes. Only by hiding there could they evade the fatal strike of the Eastern Emperor Nine-Winged Archangel. Of course, the white-robed skeleton had been toyed with by Fang Chen last time, and this time it would definitely not let him off lightly. With wolves ahead and tigers behind, it seemed death was inevitable either way. Ziyajayoj, let's go quickly. He urgently pulled Ziyajayoj and dashed toward the Thunder God's palace. But Ziyajayoj stood rooted to the spot, holding a drop of congealed spiritual rain in her palm. Tears from her eyes fell like broken strands of pearls, dripping onto her palm and mingling with the spiritual rain, no longer distinguishable.
Enough!
Ziyajayoj lifted her face, her once innocent and romantic jade, like visage now soaked with tears. "Uncle, master, let me leave the central land." Fang Chen's heart clenched with urgency, and he shouted, "No, come with me at once." Ziyajayoj wrenched her hand away with all her might and cried out hoarsely, "Must I cause your death, uncle, master, before it's enough? I've already caused the death of a sage elder. I don't want to cause yours too. If you die because of me, I will never live on alone." Fang Chen's heart trembled violently, and he advised with a choked voice, Ziyajayoj, that Thunder God's palace can evade the Eastern Emperor Archangel's attacks. Once inside, you won't need to be afraid anymore. The white-robed skeleton might not harm them in the short term, but in the long run, it was uncertain. That skeleton was by no means benevolent. Ziyajayoj took a step back, shaking her head through tears. Then what about later? Do you plan to hide in there for the rest of your life, uncle, master? The Eastern Emperor Archangel will never give up. Sooner or later, he will kill you, uncle, master. Hearing this, Fang Chen was plunged into deep turmoil. Ziyajayoj raised her hand to wipe away tears, stepped forward to tightly grasp Fang Chen's hand, and forced a resolute expression. "Uncle, master, don't worry about me. The Eastern Emperor Archangel won't kill me. If I go back, my life will not be in danger. If I stay, I will only cause more meaningless casualties to you, uncle, master, and to the central land. Just let me go. I'll come find you another day. Would there even be a later?" The Northern Celestial Realm had come in such a grandiose manner to capture Zia Keoj and bring her back. How could they possibly give her another chance to leave the Northern Celestial Realm? If she left now, perhaps they would never see each other again in this lifetime. Zia Keoj gripped Fang Chen's hand tightly, her eyes full of reluctance. "Uncle, Master promised to do one thing for me. I've decided now it is to let me, Fang Chen suddenly reached out and covered her mouth, forcibly stopping her from continuing. "Don't say it." Fang Chen growled lowly, his eyes filled with struggle and pain. "Don't waste the promise on something like this." He gazed into Zia Keoj's tearful eyes, myriad thoughts surging in his heart. Was the promise he had made to Zia Keoj ultimately to be used for such a farewell? Could it be that this was destiny, preordained from the very start? Zia Keoj stared back at Fang Chen's eyes with infatuation. In that meeting of gazes, their mutual resolve spoke louder than 1,000 words. Tears rolled down her eyes once more. She released his hand and whispered, "Thank you, Uncle, Master, for granting this." The snow-white feathered wings behind Zia Keoj unfurled silently, each feather imbued with golden radiance, shimmering like a treasure. Gritting her silver teeth lightly, she gave her wings a forceful shake, and over 50 golden feathers, stained with blood, detached from the roots. Threads of pain climbed onto her clear and lovely countenance. Fang Chen's expression changed drastically, and he cried out involuntarily, "What are you doing?" These were all Zia Keoj Saint bloodline. Losing even one would have a tremendous impact on the upper limit of her martial path. And now she had lost fully half of them. Had she gone mad? Zia Keoj gently waved her sleeve, gathering all the golden feathers into a jade case. She took Fang Chen's hand and gently placed the jade case into his palm. Zia Keoj gazed at him and said softly, "Uncle, Master gave me a parting gift, so I shall give you a gift as well. May you absorb the saint blood and eliminate the peril of the 6 branches of heavenly thunder. Consider this the last thing Keoj does for you." It turned out that as the space within the jade pendant on her neck continuously opened, she had awakened many memories. Only then did she realize belatedly that the 6 branches of heavenly thunder was actually an enslavement technique of the angel race. At last she understood that when she had given Uncle, Master the final chapter, Yin, Yang Heaven, back then she had indirectly harmed him. Now this angel's blood could perfectly remedy that for Uncle, Master. Fang Chen felt as if a torrent had surged through his heart, his very soul shaken violently. Zia Keoj was actually sacrificing her own martial path to remove the hidden danger for him. That was her future, the prospects of her entire long remainder of life. And she had given all of it to him, just like that. Fang Chen's heart was so heavy he could hardly breathe. His voice trembled as he asked, "Is it worth it? Am I worth you treating me so well?" Zia Keoj gently wiped away her tears, smiled faintly like a simple, elegant flower blooming alone in a spring meadow, and answered without hesitation, "It is worth it. Do you remember what you gave me the first time we met, Uncle, Master?" Fang Chen shook his head. "It was too long ago, I've forgotten." Zia Keoj took out a small piece of beast material, preserved with great care from her spatial storage. Fang Chen suddenly recalled and blurted out the stomach pouch of the white, furred blue crystal beast. Zia Keoj held the stomach pouch, now used down to a small piece, her eyes full of nostalgia, and as she spoke, her eyes lit up. "After I came to the Central Land, besides searching NG for the Grand Void Ancient Tree, my favorite thing was using Master's medical skills to heal people and save lives. I loved seeing withered people and animals regain new life. Only then did I feel my existence had meaning. However, the senior brothers and sisters around me all thought I was an oddity, that I was wasting my martial talent on the path of medicine. In the supreme sect, in the 9 sects land, I was an oddity, so I was always alone, not wanting to interact with others. But you, Uncle, Master, the first time you met me, you gave me a stomach pouch so I could save more people. At that time, I felt this Uncle, Master seemed different from others. Later, when Uncle Master was either involved with this lady or accompanied by that lady, I thought Uncle Master was a gallant among flowers. Then later, when Uncle Master learned I was trapped in the severed heaven canyon and in mortal danger, you single-handedly cut through the canyon, covered in blood, and came before me. That time, Uncle Master, you moved Keoj deeply. I then felt that Uncle Master was truly good to me." Memories surged like a tide in Fang Chen's mind, scenes of the past floating up one by one. No wonder Zia Keoj only smiled at him. Unknowingly, she had come to regard him as her only spiritual solace in the Central Land world. Zia Keoj's eyes rippled as she continued softly. Later, in the battle at the Boundary Mountain, Uncle, Master stood up to fight the undead army for the disciples of the 9 sects. Yes, and for all living beings behind, and I thought Uncle, Master, was a hero with the world in his heart. Then later, when you annihilated the giant sect in a rage for Elder Lie, I thought Uncle, Master was a man of temperament. And later... Here, she suddenly stopped, smiled radiantly, and said, there are too many stories later. I could never finish telling them. In short, Uncle, Master is like a vast treasure trove, each time revealing a sparkling surprise that delights Keoj. How could such an Uncle, Master, not be worthy of my affection? As long as Uncle, Master is well, I am content no matter what. Mixed emotions welled up in Fang Chen's heart. He was actually this important in Zia Keoj's heart. He gazed down at the golden feather in his palm, his heart trembling, his voice quavering. But this is your future, your destiny. Zia Jeoj put her small hands behind her back, giggling. As long as Martial Uncle is well, it doesn't matter what happens to Jeoj. Fang Chen was completely moved. The last person who gave to him unconditionally was Liu Ruxu, someone he was indebted to for a lifetime. Now Zia Jeoj had also become someone he owed countless debts. Time and again, she had been good to him, and now she had even severed her own martial destiny to pave his path. How could he ever repay such a kindness? Staring at the little angel who smiled yet was about to depart, Fang Chen's heart seized, his eyes reddening faintly. Seeing this, Zia Jeoj hastily reached out with both hands to cup his face, gently rubbing the corners of his eyes with aching tenderness. Martial Uncle, don't cry. I don't want you to be sad for me. Their eyes met, complex emotions swirling within each other's gazes. The deep feelings Zia Jeoj had pressed into her heart could no longer be contained. She parted her lips, paused a moment, then whispered, Martial Uncle, actually, Jeoj can't bear to leave you either. She silently withdrew her hands, taking a small step back, putting distance between herself and Fang Chen. Since there is no future, why speak it aloud, only adding to Martial Uncle's sorrow? Some feelings need to bloom like flowers, others need only release their quiet fragrance in the depths of a gorge. Zia Jeoj gazed deeply at Fang Chen and said softly, Martial Uncle, I'm leaving. She knew she could wait no longer. The East Emperor Archangel was about to arrive. She took the pendant from her neck and swept it to the side, silently rending open a pitch-black void rift. Overwhelming spatial force erupted forth, sweeping her and the surrounding foliage into the rift. Fang Chen stepped forward and seized her hand. Bitterness surfaced on Zia Jeoj's face. Martial Uncle, you still won't let me leave. Fang Chen retrieved the still, soundly, sleeping little Killin from his spatial mirror. With a beckoning wave, he extracted the merit divine pearl from its body. Then he gently pressed the slumbering little Killin into Zia Jeoj's arms. Zia Jeoj's eyes widened in surprise. The little Killin, why are you giving it to me, Martial Uncle? Fang Chen replied, how could I let you return alone? Let the little Killin accompany you back to the Northern Heaven Realm. Zia Jeoj hastily refused. How can that be? How could Martial Uncle lose the little Killin? Fang Chen smiled faintly. Who says I am losing it? Can I not come to the Heaven Realm to find you both?
What?
Zia Jeoj's almond-shaped eyes rounded. Martial Uncle is coming to the Northern Heaven Realm. The Northern Heaven Realm does not welcome humans. Even less does it welcome humans from the Central Earth. Furthermore, Fang Chen had defiled the East Emperor Archangel's laws with the Dao slaves' tainted blood, and a chasm had already opened between them. For Fang Chen to come to the Northern Heaven Realm was tantamount to digging his own grave. Zia Jeoj cried urgently, Martial Uncle, you mustn't come, you will die. Fang Chen slowly released her hand and said in a deep voice, you died once for your Martial Uncle. What harm is there if your Martial Uncle dies once for you? Wait in the Northern Heaven Realm, your Martial Uncle will come for you. A dull roar echoed as a massive spatial turbulence erupted, sweeping Zia Jeoj and the little Killin into the void. The void rift slowly sealed shut. Zia Jeoj frantically beat her feathered wings, trying to fly back, but the rift shrank smaller and smaller. All she could see was Fang Chen standing with hands clasped behind his back, watching with a smile as his figure gradually faded. Just as the rift was about to snap shut, Fang Chen's final words drifted over. The next time we meet, remember to think of your request. Martial Uncle will fulfill it. With a muffled thud, the void rift closed completely. Zia Jeoj took out the pendant, attempting to once again slice through the world barrier. At that moment, a blazing sun of boundless radiance illuminating the void flickered into being from afar. It was the East Emperor Archangel. Even with little distance between them, the holy light upon him was so overpowering that ordinary eyes could not bear it, making his form impossible to discern. The East Emperor Archangel's voice resounded with supreme authority. Where is he? Zia Zheoj stowed the pendant and bowed, reporting to the Archangel, he has departed. The Archangel's gaze, which could shake the myriad heavens, fell upon the world barrier behind Zia Zheoj. On the other side of the world barrier, Fang Chen was also staring back coldly. That terrifying aura capable of suppressing an entire world. Not even the world barrier could stop it. The two sides faced off, separated by a world barrier, eyes locked in icy confrontation. Fang Chen's peripheral vision swept toward the Thunder God Celestial Palace. He longed for the East Emperor Archangel to make a move right here. If it could startle and enrage the old monsters within the Thunder God Celestial Palace, so much the better. When those two were at each other's throats, Zia Zheoj might not have to return after all. The Archangel's stare grew ever more piercing, threads of killing intent flowing through his eyes. Plainly visible, a large swath of his 9 pairs of wings had turned jet black as if polluted by something. That was precisely Fang Chen's handiwork. However, as an existence close to a saint, the East Emperor Archangel could perceive the auspicious and ominous signs between heaven and earth. The central earth region before him now gave off a deeply ominous premonition. After pondering repeatedly, he slowly withdrew his gaze and turned it upon Zia Zheoj. His sharp eyes swiftly softened, now filled with kindness and doting, as he said warmly, "Return with me to the northern heaven realm. That is where your true home lies."